We are here with the icon himself, Ryan Murphy. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good.
Now, we're celebrating the 100th episode of American Horror Story. When you were first starting with Murder House, did you have any idea that it was going to go into the 100th episode?
No, I did not. In fact, when we were making that first episode, all of us were sort of like, what are we doing? Like, this seems so weird. I mean, I had a passion for it, but we were a little unsteady. The only person who was very confident that it would be a hit was Dylan McDermott. And he was like, no, this is a big hit. You just watch. And he was right. So I think it was around season 5, you know, where John Landgraf and I talked, and we were like, well, this show could keep going. You know, if you want to and you want to and I want to, we'll do it. And, you know, in its 9th season worldwide, it's never been more popular. And, you know, I think part of that is the explosion of streaming, and it's so readily available to people. So, yeah, I want to keep doing it if he wants to keep doing it, you know?
How do you feel that streaming has kind of altered the way that people view their content and also how content is created, especially with The Politician, now with a huge success on Netflix?
I think that I think streaming's interesting because it sort of lets you watch when you want to watch it, how you want to watch it on your timetable. You know, that's what I love it for. And I think with a show like American Horror Story or The Politician, you know, it's written specifically now for that audience, even though it airs on FX. Every episode has a cliffhanger, and it's designed to make you push that button like a Pavlovian thing, you know?
Yes.
And I like that. I like the creation of thinking, well, what keeps someone invested in a story? You know, how do you keep them in the story? Because the story is alive when you're watching it, you know? It feels like a living creature to me. And the things that I've recently watched and loved on streaming have been like Mindhunter, and I waited until the first 2 seasons of Succession had aired, and I watched it all in a binge and loved it. So yeah, I like doing it.
Amazing. I love binging this show too. One of my favorite things is going back every season and rewatching all of the previous seasons.
People do that, you know?
And picking up on all the little clues because you're
clues.
so good at hiding things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things too is that this season especially seems to be a real love letter to the classic 80s horror slashers that we've seen kind of referenced throughout previous seasons. Did you have the 100th episode in mind when you picked this theme for this season?
No. In fact, it was only when we started writing this season that somebody said, I think we're going to hit our 100th episode, you know? I sort of feel like we did that last year. You know, we had Sarah Paulson direct that episode, Return to Murder House, with Jess came back, and Connie came back, and Dylan came back, and everybody came back. And I felt like we had gotten that out of our system. So, no, we had already, you know, worked out what every episode was when I found that out. So there was no special ta-da. You know, we did it. We had done it.
I love that you mentioned that episode too, because that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, me
because
too.
it brings everything in as well. There are some elements that I know that we have set up in the past that people have been craving more of. Are we going to see any more of the aliens from Asylum?
Yeah, people love them, right? But also I think they're very divisive. Because I remember when we were doing season 2, I read a lot that people hated the aliens, but I think some people loved them, you know, and they're writing about them more. I would like to revisit that. There's a couple things I would like to revisit. That is a very interesting idea, you know, but then it would be American sci-fi story. Not that that's wrong. I think we'd have to figure out a way to make it horror based, you know.
Space horror story.
Yeah. So, well,
go past America and just
space. That would
space.
be very hard to shoot, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us, and thank you so much for all of your amazing work. You make all of my favorite shows.
You're very kind.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Bye.